Hello, my name is Connie Strasheim. I'm a medical researcher and writer and the author of 5 books on holistic treatments for different diseases, including Lyme disease and cancer. I'm here today to talk to you about my most recent book, which is entitled Beyond Lyme Disease. And this book is about healing the underlying causes of chronic illness in people with borreliosis and co-infections, or tick-borne infections as they're commonly referred to. And the purpose of writing this book, I've been researching medicine for about 8 years, and in my interviews with hundreds of Lyme disease patients and many doctors, I've come to learn that the tick-borne infections aren't always the primary cause of illness in people with Lyme disease. In other words, there are other co-conditions that people with Lyme disease have which are causing symptoms just as much as the tick-borne infections, and quite often they set the stage for the body to become sick from Lyme. They're not always just a result of Lyme disease, and so for that reason I wrote this book. And so now you may be asking yourself, why does it matter if they're co-conditions of Lyme, if they result from Lyme, or if they're primary causes of illness? And I believe it matters because the treatment focus changes if you assume that a condition is a primary cause of illness versus whether it's just an effective disease. So just to give you an example, one of the topics in this book is mold illness. Now, over 50% of the homes in the United States have been found to have mold in them, and fully 1/4 of the population is estimated to not be able to remove mold toxins from their bodies. So what that means is that there are a lot of people with mold illness and Lyme disease who are really suffering from symptoms of both conditions, but a lot of Lyme literate doctors are assuming the problem to be primarily due to Borrelia and the tick-borne infections. And in reality, the person may be suffering from symptoms of mold illness, which overlap with the symptoms of chronic Lyme disease, and they can sometimes even be worse than those symptoms produced by Lyme. So that's just one example, but there are a lot of people in the United States that have Lyme disease, or they don't have Lyme disease, but they harbor borreliosis and some of the more common tick-borne infections such as Babesia, Bartonella, but they don't have any symptoms because there were no predisposing factors to make them sick from the infection. So I realized that a lot of times, and for a lot of people, the tick-borne infections are a principal cause of illness, but that's not always the case, and I found that to be true for myself. I did years of antimicrobial therapies, antibiotics, and I didn't get any better. In fact, I got worse, and despite the fact that I thought I was adequately supporting my body. But the truth was that the Lyme infections were not the main cause of illness for me. You know, if I had to put an estimate on it, I'd say they were causing 30, maybe 40% of my symptoms, or that, you know, I'd give them that much importance in the symptom picture. And in reality, I had these other predisposing conditions which caused me to become sick, and until I treated those, I wouldn't get better. And so what this book describes 10 common causes of chronic illness in people with Lyme disease, factors that can be primary causes of illness, can predispose a person to Lyme disease, as well as be a result of Lyme disease, because we know Lyme disease weakens the immune system and sets the stage for other issues to become prominent in the body. So real quickly, just to describe some of the topics in this book, adrenal fatigue is one of the main topics, and adrenal fatigue is very common in our society. It results from living in fight or flight mode. It can result from emotional trauma or an accumulation of toxins in the body, but it can be a major trigger for illness because it weakens the immune system and causes all kinds of hormonal imbalances which set the stage for the body to become susceptible to infections and other things. So adrenal fatigue and the hypothyroidism that results from that are talked about in this book, or described I should say. Nutrient deficiencies and toxic food are another issue, and the importance of eating well, and it kind of goes beyond basic guidelines, because in today's society it's not quite as easy to eat well. It's not as easy to eat well as you think, and so this book describes why this in itself, why toxic food in itself can make a person sick, and what you can do to find healing from the problems caused by toxic food in the environment. Other environmental toxins are described in this book. And environmental toxins are a major cause of disease in people today, in and of themselves, and so it's really important to know how to remove those from the body. Dental fossa infections. I personally know of 2 people who had chronic Lyme disease who became radically better after they removed the dental infections in their mouths. And if you've ever had wisdom teeth removed or you have a root canal, then chances are you have a dental infection, and which is compromising the health of your entire body. So that's another topic in this book. Electromagnetic pollution. There are people I know with Lyme disease who assume that they're sensitive to electromagnetic field because they have tick-borne infections and they're sick. And while this can be true, electromagnetic pollution in and of itself can cause illness, and because it alters the microbial terrain of the body's environment and can make it susceptible to illness from Lyme disease. And so removing the influence of electromagnetic pollution in the environment is important for some people's healing, and is playing a major role in the furtherance of, or the development and furtherance of illness. Parasites, mold, as I mentioned, emotional trauma, which I believe is a major cause of illness in some people with chronic illness. And the issue with a trauma that I found is that, some books will recommend going to a counselor once a week or meditating 20 minutes a day, but the problem is that trauma is stored in all of the organs and tissues of the body, and so it's important to undertake therapies which can remove trauma from the cells, not just from the conscious mind. And so that's another topic of this book. Gastrointestinal dysfunction, and then there's some other topics in here discussed to a lesser extent: pyroluria, heavy metal toxicity, candida, fungal infections. And in the book it has an appendix which describes the most updated Lyme disease treatment guidelines, tick-borne, on how to treat tick-borne infections according to recent conferences that I've attended. So I just included that as kind of a bonus. But to learn more about the book, I invite you to go to the book's website, which is LymeBook, LYMEBOOK.com. And after you've read it, please email me with your comments, your questions. My email is connie9824@aol.com. And I just pray the book would be a source of hope and healing to people who have done years of antimicrobial treatments and haven't gotten better. So thank you so much, and hope you have a great day.